Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. When you have an issue to solve in an argument, a dispute, a verbal dispute, don't you start with the beginning and then you go chronologically? Or you can, start from the present and go back to the first meaningful reason or subject that needs to be solved, discussed, clarified. You can go either way, and you can use both in the same conversation. If you really want to solve the issue, if you don't want to solve the issue, you just pick and choose certain events, and then you discuss only those and ignore things that you don't want to discuss, even though they are relevant for solving the issue. Here we have a weasel, and this weasel is Antony Blinken. And Antony Blinken is a Zelensky to a certain extent, or a Michal, nothing wrong with that, or Victoria Nuland, nothing wrong with that. And he makes a claim, again, based on his evidence or on facts, or his interpretation of certain facts. And I will bring another article. So this is one article showing what Mr. Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, so this is the foreign minister of the United States of America, like Lavrov is his counterpart for Russia, or the great Peter Giarto of Hungary, or low IQ Annabella Baerbock of Germany, or former Liz Truss of Great Britain. I can go on and on with this. Anyway, they supposedly are on my team. Anyway, so let's go. I don't mention Dr. Jai Shankar of India. I don't mention Wang Yi of China. These are not in my team, so they must be bad. But my weasels must be. Anyway, they're very educated, the guys in my team. There's a problem. Either something doesn't compute there, or the education sucks, or they're just not good people, if you know what I mean. So let's go and see what this guy says. Blinken. This article comes from Ukrainska Pravda, and this guy says there is zero evidence Russia is prepared to engage in meaningful diplomacy. So probably Russia is just engaged in clown circus diplomacy, according to this guy. I listened to this guy talk, and believe me, I don't know what's wrong with him. But we had dumber, and we have dumber than him in power. You can look at the presidency and the vice presidency. So this article comes from May 4th. So this guy says that Russia is not ready for serious talks on ending its war against Ukraine. And I'm quoting, there is zero evidence that Russia is prepared to engage in meaningful diplomacy. To the contrary, we're seeing the horrific onslaught just in the past week again on civilian targets in Ukraine. Now, let me read you this again, what he says here. Has to be some profound change in Mr. Putin's mind and in Russia's mind. So the Russians have a problem in their brain. So let's start with the beginning. Russia does not want to talk to you. You had your chance. That's how I think the Russians are looking at this. First, let's go back a little bit in the past. And do you remember what happened in December 2021 and January 2022? A lot of things happened, but related to this. Well, it was the Russians who issued and discussed with NATO partners, including the United States, which was the main guy, in order to request some security guarantees from NATO. And those guys just laughed Russia out of town. Bye-bye, what? Ukraine? Nah. Ukraine is a peaceful country and can do whatever you want. And it has the right to defend itself. And if it's threatened, I think you threaten Ukraine. But Russia did not have the same right to feel threatened by NATO's expansion to its borders. And let me show you this. So that was when the time was the last time the Russians tried to engage in serious diplomatic negotiations, if you know what I mean. And then they say, you know what, is that we talk, we try to discuss. The West's offer was such a weasel offer. I have here an article from, I think it was the 20th of January or something like that. Let me just show you the article here. So this is the article, this, and the other one is this. In ABC News. Now these are, you know how they are, but I have to use them because I didn't get another article that would say anything else from the Western countries. So January 12th, I'm sorry. Russia and NATO countries are holding talks amid fears of an attack on Ukraine. NATO rejects Russian demands, this is the word they use, for security guarantees in latest round of talks. So they say, you know what? They treated Russia as, you know, you'd have no case here. Russia met with 30 NATO member states, the LA, blah, blah, blah. Second of the 3 diplomatic meetings, blah, blah, blah. The Russians had 100,000 troops at Ukraine's border, said we're going to do this if we're not going to come to a solution or anything like that. Well, that's a blackmail. Okay, take it however you want. That's a lot of BS here. I'm going to spare you that. And this is what they said. There was no commitment to de-escalate, nor was there a statement that there would not be, Sherman added. So the Russians said, well, this is the end of the rope for us. You understand that? And this guy says, what are they going to do? Nothing. And he said, Russia made the sweeping demands over NATO in 2 draft treaties in December after building up troops close to Ukraine for months because their Russian-speaking brothers were killed in Ukraine by whom? I think they were committing suicide, right? This build-up, along with bellicose rhetoric and plans for internal sabotage, according to US officials that could be trusted, raised fears that Putin may be preparing to launch a renewed attack on the country after he seized Crimea. Renewed, so it was one. This was like another one. And launch a separatist war in 2014. What happened in 2014? Remember? Chronology of events. A legitimate, democratically elected government of Ukraine was toppled, was overthrown by some traitors. Why? Because they did it in an armed fashion and with the help of outside agencies. The ones that right now are just, saying certain kind of things. Russia has denied it was planning to attack Ukraine despite the build-up on its border. Amid the diplomatic effort, it staged live fire exercises. Well, I said, well, push us over there, we're going to go. So now, the US and NATO have hoped that Russia might accept more modest offers, such as limiting missile deployments and troop exercises. So this is what the Americans came into, how did this guy say? What was the word? Meaningful diplomacy. This is NATO's meaningful diplomacy. So they said, maybe modest offers we give you, like limiting missile deployments. Instead of 3,000, we're going to do 2,500. And troop exercises, instead of, let's say, 50 a year, we're going to do 48 a year. Okay? But Russia's negotiator, an asshole, Grushko, insisted again Wednesday that Russia could accept nothing less than guarantees on Ukraine and NATO, calling it imperative. All right, well, what happened here? Russia has complained for decades about NATO's expansion into countries formerly dominated by Moscow under the Soviet Union, I must add, allowed by United States and Great Britain and France. So these 3 countries allowed, they made a deal with the criminal Stalin, which was a Georgian, not a Russian. Remember? They made deals with these guys on 3 occasions. What's going to happen after the Second World War ends and Hitler is dead? And they said, okay, you take this part, we take that part. So what Hitler tried to do, take over the world, these guys did themselves. They just carved it in 2. So, but hey, since we're good, and the other guys obviously were bad, but Soviet Union and Moscow was bad then, worse than now. Worse than now. And look, why? Look how many people they killed on their own. The purges and all that, anti-Semitism and other things, remember? Okay? So this is just bullshit what these guys are saying. The Kremlin now alleges that NATO assistance to Ukraine means the former Soviet country is becoming a de facto part of the alliance. Did you hear that? So the Kremlin alleges that NATO assistance to Ukraine means the former Soviet countries becoming a de facto. What did Reznikov say on many occasions? We are a de facto member of NATO. And we are. I have an article ready to make it for you guys. And you just do this. Reznikov claims that we are a de facto part of NATO. And you're going to find a lot of articles saying that, because that's what he said on few occasions. So I think they were kind of right. The US and NATO said Moscow's demands in an attempt to reimpose its Soviet-era sphere of influence. But what do? NATO expansion. Isn't that the same thing? So what's true for you should be true for me as well, if we are to be fair. If we're not, only you can do that, but I can't. So the NATO, the US, NATO is just US, okay, and the rest is just people over there to make a number and have diversity, supposedly, okay. So NATO claims that these guys want to impose Soviet-era sphere of influence in Eastern Europe, something that they did already, but they did it in a weasel way. Hey, they wanted to join us, okay, open door policy, and that it violates a fundamental right for the countries to choose their security alliances. What about the Russia's security? No, they didn't care about that. He says here, Grushko said the escalation was absolutely possible, but he warned that the alliance's enlargement into Eastern Europe has become unbearable for Russia. My security guarantees, we don't care about you. Warning, if Russia felt threatened, it would use military means. And this guy did what? Go ahead. We've been waiting for this for a long time, I guess. And I'm quoting, we have a range of military technical measures that we will use if we feel a real threat to our security. Again, warning, we are at the end of the rope. Well, we don't care. Go ahead. And we already are feeling it. If they are looking at our territory as a target for guided offensive weapons, which, just look at Poland and Romania. They already had missiles over there. Against Iran, supposedly. Of course, we cannot agree with that. We will take all necessary measures in order to fend off the threat with military means, if political ones don't work. So they gave so many warnings. Guys, we are at the end of it. We're cornered. No, you're not. You gotta take it deeper. But there's no more deeper. There's no deeper. Anyway. And it says, Stoltenberg started with bullshit. Said Russia could not have a veto over Ukraine joining the alliance. Okay, well, you keep with this bullshit and then you have a war. Well, Ukraine is a sovereign nation. Really? Ukraine has the right to self-defense, he said, Stoltenberg. That's an invitation. This guy said something, Grushko said something, and Stoltenberg said something else. Ukraine is not a threat to Russia. No, it's not. Ukraine is not a threat to Russia. You're right. NATO is a threat to Russia. To say that Ukraine is a threat to Russia is to put the whole thing upside down. Now, this guy Stoltenberg just framed the whole thing the way he wanted it. Ukraine is a sovereign nation, it's true. As Syria is a sovereign nation, and the US has troops right now in Syria. So how about that one? Well, don't talk about that, Emil. To say that Ukraine is a threat to Russia is to put the whole thing upside down. But it's not Ukraine, it's NATO. They said, leave Ukraine alone. No, we don't. We're going to get it. And this is another weasel. This is another Zelensky, by the way. Go and check her out, okay? Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman. Not another Zelensky, another, what's his name, Blinken, another, it's just a coincidence. What do you want? Nothing. It's okay. All right. So everyone, Russia most of all, will have to decide whether they really are about security, in which case they should engage, or whether this was all a pretext, she said, that idiot over there. Anyway. So, I don't know, man. You can read this. It's just an article that I think tells us that was the last straw, the last time. So what's the meaningful, serious diplomacy, Blinken? What are you talking about? Russia engaged in this bullshit war because that didn't work out, or parts of it at least. And they say we're going to achieve four goals. And now you want them to do what? After all this started, the economies are as they are, the military, the whole situation is as it is. Now you want them to stop halfway or something? Yeah, no, there's no more democracy. Democracy is no, anyway, diplomacy. What are you talking about? I mean, you get me sweating right now, fighting you, and you say, you know what, let's go back and take a shower now together. No, we're gonna fix this one right here. And you are the one who accused these guys when in January you were like, we're gonna offer you less missiles in Ukraine and around your country, less missiles and less military games and activity. That's all. They didn't say how much. That's all we can give you. Are you kidding me? Imagine you are here in your house, your property, and you have, I don't know, about 30 neighbors around you planting all kind of missiles around your house and doing all kind of military maneuvers. And you say, hey, Gigi, stop. Don't worry. I'm going to shoot you. We don't care about you. You know what we can do? We're going to send out of the 30 countries, we're going to send one away. And we're not going to meet here every day, all day. We're going to meet here every day, 23 hours and 59 minutes a day. Okay? All right, man. I'm good now, man. I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's the proposal. Now, it may sound, oh my God, and I don't give a fuck, just so you know. It sounds you are trying to find justification for the Russians. Well, if you think that this bullshit that those guys, Ukrainians, I'm talking about Ukrainian nation, not Zelensky and others, Ukraine and Russia go through and other countries, and it was unprovoked, and Russia just got crazy, we have to change the mentality of Putin and the Russian people. Talk like that here in the United States and say, hey, you know what, that group of people over there, they need to change, something serious is wrong in their mind. Just do that, unless you talk to people of this kind of complexity and say, yeah, guys, you need to change that. Then everything else will be like, oh my God, you lose your job, they might arrest you. So, and for good reason. You know, right? Talk about a group of people, you generalize, you stereotype, blah, 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 blah. But here, it's okay. It's open season for the Russian hatred. I'm not saying these are good and those are bad, because there's no such a thing. It's good and bad and good and bad. But to tell me, oh, it's unprovoked, oh, those guys they're just like bad, bad, bad. I don't believe that. I mean, I'm not a kid. Neither you are. Anyway, this is with Blinken. And Blinken keeps talking. Blinken, they will not talk to you. All you need to do, this is what you're going to do. I'm guessing this is the only thing that the Russians will expect. That's the only thing. US to say, okay, Zelensky, stop the war, that's it, the war is over. You can say, Emil, but he doesn't have the power. You know what I mean? Yeah, they can do that in 3 days. Not 3 days, 1 day, because he says, no more weapons, nothing. Dead. So, yeah, that's how they have him. So when they're going to do this, the war ends. Or if the Russian says, okay, now we're going to destroy us as a country, you're going to, then, yeah. That's another way to make it. We're going to hang all our leadership, all these criminals of war, like others, and then we're going to make some Nuremberg trials part 2. However you want, you're going to put some Zelensky in charge of doing all this. They're going to be all hanged. Russia will be just parted away. Their economy is going to be controlled. Resources sucked dry by and controlled by the banking system is going to take care of reconstruction of Ukraine and Russia. The Russian assets will be used they say about 500 million, but some say 700 billion with B, to reconstruct Ukraine, and then Ukraine will be part of everything because they are not corrupt, they're a democracy, and they're best people, and probably they're going to start like they did with the Germans after the Second World War. Some re-education. They call it denazification. Maybe they're going to start with deputification. How about that? Deputinification. Boom. How about that? They did it once, they will do it again. There's the same mentality. All right. I said too much anyway. And believe me, I didn't even scratch how much I would say. But anyway, this is for YouTube consumption. When we meet face to face, we're going to discuss differently, or when these guys are going to round me up. Get me somewhere, if you know what I mean. Put a light here and going to give me some water to drink, even though I'm not thirsty, and many other, like a little massage, or I don't know, maybe some finger massage and other things. I'm going to put some teeth. Then I'm going to tell them everything I know. Oh, shit. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.